Welcome to Paulie's Guitar Journal, and in this entry, we're going to talk about the Open Position Scales Resource Book. I began studying and playing the guitar in 2009, and over the years I've developed a practice book. This book is tailored to the areas that I need practice on, and it's set up in a way that I can practice these areas without getting overwhelmed. From this practice book, I've developed several routines that I feel would be helpful to the classical guitar and fingerstyle guitarist community. So from time to time, I'll be releasing technique books that are what I'm calling practice resources. When I first started my practice book, I started just with a piece of paper. This isn't it, just a blank piece of paper. But I wrote down everything that I needed to do on my piece of paper so I could go through it systematically during my practice. Then it became composition notebook. And this is actually the composition notebook that I used for years. You might even still be able to see part of that. Where I'd set up the arpeggios that I was doing, the slurs, the new piece, and the last 4 pieces that I had worked on. This is the practice book as it stands today. And it covers scales. I have 3 areas that I work on pieces. So scales, new hymn, fretboard knowledge, arpeggios, daily slur practice, original pieces, planting exercises, left hand studies, chords and progressions, tremolo, which I need work on, sight reading, new pieces, classical pieces, pieces that are ready to record or film, and then a section of repertoire. And I actually recommend getting a book like this. Practice resources will consist of digital PDFs and physical books that are not only scale books and chord books and technique books, but also a practical way to approach practicing your technique throughout the week without getting overwhelmed. I started with the Open Position Scale book because, first of all, I've never seen one. And second of all, it's an introduction to how to practice those scales, learn the scales, and an introduction to practicing throughout the week using this method. When approaching the practice of these scales, you'll realize that there are 24 major and minor scales to learn. I'm only going with the relative minors. There are a lot more scales that you can learn. But for this, we're just starting with a major and minor. As a guitarist, you'll want to learn as many scales as possible and as many keys as possible. With the abundance of scales, modes, keys, positions, it can become very overwhelming to learn all of them. So I got to thinking, how can one approach this awe-inspiring task? I start with a major scale, and then I move to the relative minor of that major scale. After I play those scales, I move to the 5th degree and play the major scale there. And then I play the relative minor of the 5th degree's major scale. Okay, that sounds more complicated than it is. Let's break this down. So it's Monday, and you've sat down to practice your scales. So you open your copy of the Open Position Scale book, and you want to play through the scales slowly at first, and to get them under your fingers. Now, as you start, you'll start with a C major scale. And then when you finish that scale, you'll go to the A minor scale. After that, you'll go to the G major scale. And after that, you'll go to the E minor scale. On Tuesday, you'll play the D major scale, the B minor scale, the A major scale, and the F sharp minor scale. This will allow you to play all 24 scales, major and minor, relative minor, from Monday to Saturday practice. And then on Monday, you can start over again. The book itself is set up in 3 sections. The first section is notation only, for those of us who like notation only. The second section is set up in tab and notation, for those of us who like tab along with our notation. And then the third section is set up in scale charts for reference and suggested fingering. Again, the book is laid out fairly straightforward, and it's good for beginners and for those who want to add to their musical library. Scale practice is one of the essential foundations to any music instrument. To get your copy, check the links in the description. Okay, I gotta get back to practicing, so until next time, live life glorifying God.